It's Plug Plants episode 4, and today's plant is all about brilliant winter colour and all year round interest, but it's a big one, so I'm going to need this. It's Mahonia. Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back, and welcome to a late autumn garden where it is really quiet and really still. Well, except for all the crows. I think you're going to have to put up with them throughout the whole episode. Now, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, and if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up down below. Both of those things really help to support the channel by telling YouTube that people like you are enjoying the videos that I make. But back to the plant, and the plant we're talking about today is this beauty behind me. This is a Mahonia, and now you see why I needed the ladder. So let's get up close and have a proper look at it. So here's everything you need to know about Mahonias. If you go down to the garden centre, most likely the Mahonia that you're going to see on sale is one called Mahonia Winter Sun. That's what I'm pretty certain we have here. I can only say pretty certain because I didn't actually buy or plant it myself, and it's now a lovely mature shrub. But when I look at the leaves and the flowers, I'm pretty certain that's what it is. In terms of height and spread, this thing's going to grow to 3 to 5 meters high and about 3 to 4 meters across. So it really is a pretty big, imposing shrub. But fear not, if you don't have the biggest of gardens or you don't want a really large shrub, you can easily control the spread and the height of this through really harsh pruning. It will very happily take a hard prune so that you can keep it under control. Plus, Mahonia is a really wide group of plants. You can buy big ones, small ones, you can get creeping ones, you can even get ones with different types of foliage, so you can take your pick. In terms of conditions, this thing is really hardy. Originally, it hails from regions like North America, Central America and Asia, so it's hardy down to -15, which is perfect for an Irish or a UK climate. In terms of soil, it's really not fussy. It doesn't care whether it's in clay or loam or sand, or whether it's acid or alkali, just as long as it's moist and well draining. In terms of situation, it likes just an ever so slightly sheltered spot with a little bit of partial shade. It doesn't want to be out in full sun. And because you're going to be putting it into partial shade, it means that the aspect doesn't really matter. It can either be north, south, east or west facing. The one important thing though is, as well as partial shade, it likes just that little bit of shelter. It doesn't like being hit with a really strong cold wind, because otherwise what it'll do is it'll scorch the leaves, which would be a real shame. It's perfect for where we have it here. This is the secret garden and the hedge that separates the garden itself, which is in there, from the driveway. So it's tucked just behind that, and it gives it that little bit of dappled shade and that little bit of shelter that it's looking for. In terms of the plant itself, it is striking in a couple of ways. For starters, you have this really strong foliage. This is really waxy and tough and really spiny, a bit like holly leaf, and it's evergreen. So you're always going to have this really strong green shrub form throughout the year, which is brilliant. In terms of the flowers, they have these big acid yellow flowers. But rather than flowering in the summer, they start flowering in the autumn, and they flower all the way through into the winter. So you get this real hit of bright yellow colour all the way through the winter. But there's two more brilliant things about these flowers. A, when they start to pass over, and these ones are starting to pass over, they develop lovely little berries. The berries swell and turn into really big, sort of purpley black berries, which are another really striking sight. And they're scented. Now, I can't honestly say that if I'm just walking around the garden, I can pick up on the scent of this in the air, but when you smell the flowers closely, they do have a lovely sweet honey smell. So, striking flowers, striking foliage, brilliant plant. So why do I think this is a brilliant plant, and why do I think you're going to think it's brilliant as well? Well, some plants are just really powerful performers, and this is a really powerful performer. If you look at the leaves, they're evergreen, but they're not just a drab evergreen, they're really striking. They've got a really strong form, and it means that all the way through the winter you have this really statuesque big plant that looks good in its own right, but it also is a really nice foil to have in a garden or at the back of a border to plant other things around. Now, the next thing is all about the winter colour and the seasonal interest, and to show you just how strong that is, let's have a look over there. This is the view from our front door looking out across the front garden, and actually the weather is just changing perfectly to illustrate my point. It's late autumn going into winter, and we have, what is it? It's late afternoon, it's starting to get cold and grey, and actually it's getting misty and a bit foggy. When you look behind, you can see loads of the deciduous trees are now totally bare, and the garden is starting to look really quite bare and quite dull. We do have some evergreens, but again, oh look, they're fine, but they're really just backdrop green. But as you look along, you have that. It's the Mahonia. That really bright yellow stands out, and no matter where you are in the garden, if you can look over there, you are going to see that yellow, and having that yellow all the way through the winter is just fantastic. So let's go back and have another closer look at it. So back to being up close with the flowers, you can see that they're these really nice long yellow flowers, and they're a really acid yellow. Now, if I'm totally honest, I'm not the biggest fan of yellow in the garden, particularly this kind of shade. But during the winter, your choices for winter colour are fairly limited, and there are not many things that are going to be this standout for as long through the winter. So I'm going to make an exception. I think I do like it. Now, as well as the colour, then you've got that really nice scent. Having anything scented during the winter just feels like such a bonus, but because it's scented, it also attracts winter pollinators. Already, just looking at this now, there are bees, there are actually still some wasps and some flies, so you're helping to support wildlife even through late autumn and into winter, which is really something that we should be thinking about nowadays when you're thinking about biodiversity and your garden as a whole, as what it can contribute to the environment. And then finally, and they don't have them on at the moment, there's berries. So you have flowers that are really bright, you've got scent, you've got berries, you've got the evergreen leaves. This thing just gives you so much for so long, all the way through the winter and then on through the year. One absolutely brilliant thing about this plant, and actually it's a practicality, is how easy it is to maintain and how easy it is to make it fit what you want for your garden. You can let it grow really big like this and have this really knockout statement large shrub, which actually is pretty much a small tree. You can have it here, you could put it at the back of a border, and it's gonna look fantastic. But if you want something a bit smaller, you can keep it in check and you can control its size, its height, its spread and its form through formative pruning. What you can do is you can easily just prune out the branches you don't want to keep it in the form that you want. Or if you want to rejuvenate it, you could cut out a third of the branches each year for a few years so that it really refreshes it. Or you can go properly hardcore and you can cut all the branches down to about 15 centimeters from the ground. If you do that, once you get the light coming in, it'll start to put on new shoots and you're basically growing a new fresh Mahonia shrub. So you can see, because this is so open to being really, really hard pruned, your options are almost limitless and you're able to keep it going for years and years without it ever becoming too big or too unwieldy. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I find with plants, when it comes to maintaining them, if they're woody shrubs, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking about pruning, because you might be worried if you prune, you're going to do damage or you're going to really alter its form in a way that it's never going to recover from. That is something you do not need to worry about with this plant. And while we're on the subject about cutting down branches, it brings me on to the very final thing that I love about this, and it's bark. Let's go and have a look, and to do that we're going to go round into the secret garden. Okay, so I've managed to squeeze myself underneath the Mahonia in the secret garden, and that's because I want to show you all of the stems and branches. As a Mahonia starts to get really tall, it actually has a bit of a propensity to get a little bit leggy, and that's what's happened here. all of the green top growth tends to sit really quite high. It doesn't have branches all the way down it, and what it ends up doing is being almost quite bare underneath, but that's not a bad thing. You don't often hear in books or on the internet about Mahonia bark, but I really like it. You can see on all of the stems and the branches, the bark is really rough, but it has these really long vertical stripes in it that are raised, so it's got even more interest. And again, like I was saying earlier, it makes a brilliant back of the border plant, back of the border big shrub really, that you can plant stuff in front. This space is open enough that if you had some nice shade loving plants, they'd be really happy. And you also have this bark to act as a really nice backdrop. So there's quite a list of positives with this Mahonia. You've got nice bark, big form, evergreen. It goes all the way through the winter with lovely flowers. It's got berries, it's got scent, and it's good for pollinators. All in all, this really is a star performer, and I think you need one in your garden. Thanks very much for watching, and leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think of Mahonias. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Have I maybe changed your mind? Do you own one, or are you going to go out and get one now? And as ever, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon so that you'll be notified when I post my next video. And until next time, see you later.